Hello, and you're very welcome to the Shift General Podcast. I'm Joe Mann. Of course, the podcast brought to you by YourGrudge.com. Use the code General Podcast, get 50% off on their website. All Ireland final time. Get your Dublin or Kerry jersey on YourGrudge.com or any other county jersey on their website. Tonight, I'm joined by former Cork All-Star Daniel Goulding and Kerry journalist David Byrne to preview this weekend's All-Ireland football final between Dublin and Kerry. So really looking forward to chatting to the lads tonight to discuss what is going to be an incredible game, an incredible weekend to look forward to. We've won All-Star, won All-Ireland between us, the three of us. That just goes to show where me and Byrne's football careers are at. Daniel Goulding, how are you?
I'm good, my man. I'm good. Looking forward to another traditional final, so to speak. And I suppose still a bit shell-shocked by Limerick in the second half yesterday. So be hoping now that the final can go to the wire now on Sunday. I think, look, it was small. For me, it was the hurling final at the end. It was a small bit of an anti-climax. It was over with 15 minutes left. And I'll be hoping we can go to the wire now on Sunday.
I can feel it coming already, Mr. Byrne. How are celebrations going, buddy?
Yeah, good. I don't think I could share that anti-climax feeling anyways, but when you're supporting the team, like, it doesn't feel like that, but from an outside it definitely was, like. So yeah, hoping the football will be a little bit closer. I'd imagine it will be. I think it'll come down to a kick of a game, which is what's making it so exciting, I think. And it's just so much contrast and backstories with, Kerry going for two in a row, and is it a resurgence of this good Dublin team again? Getting back in form, and they got promoted early in the year from Division 2. There's so many talking points. I think it will be a cracking game, and I think whoever does win it will be by a point or two.
Any tickets, Bernie?
I don't have any myself, John. I like all this.
What about Mr. Dan? Where's the tickets hiding, Dan?
I've got my 2 tickets, but they're gone out the door again, unfortunately. So yeah. So there's loads of Kerry men around my neck of the woods looking for tickets. So you have to be the good neighbour.
Oh right, okay.
Don't be taking tickets from the Kerry fans.
Yeah, I think your ticket is for the couch, but as you're saying, Dan, off air, you have Daddy Daycare Judy Coles. I suppose that's just as we were talking off air. It is hard to believe we've one more game to go. I suppose, Dan, I'll ask you this question: can you quite believe it?
No, look, I suppose it's a whirlwind of a year now. I was even talking to one of the two of the Cork lads from our club that are involved, and it literally is relentless. From they get back in October. They're trying to get fit from October to December. They're all young, so they're playing Sigerson then in January with the McGrath Cup, and then it's just flat out league straight into championship, and no let up whatsoever. Look, it's causing big debate. I saw Donald yesterday again was pushing the agenda that it needs to be extended. That it's not in the shop window enough in terms of hurling, and look, it's the same for football. It's just a balancing act then for the club side of it, because I know club players are much more happy. You get your few holidays in June, and then you have your month of July to get ready for championship. And depending on the size of the county, like say for Cork now, Cork will be all out to get their championships finished in October, because they're a big jewel county and they've rakes of clubs. There's loads of clubs, so there's crossover between lads playing, and it has to be really thought out, whereas other counties are predominantly one code or the other, and probably a smaller amount of clubs. It's easier for them to manage. And I could see then why people in those counties could say, oh, we could extend it a bit. So look, I don't think you're ever going to get the right blend. There's always going to be people dissatisfied. Maybe another week or two, if we could extend the whole thing another week or two. And the only other frustration for me is trying to fit a warm-up provincial competition in before the league, and then you have your main provincial competition after it. One is enough. Like your one provincial championship is enough. I don't think you need to double down on it. That'd be my opinion. I think it's gonna finish in Sigerson. You can write that anyway. The Sigerson will be done in a couple of years, because I don't think the GA want it, which is an awful pity for the sake of these competitions that are just a warm-up for the league. I think that's one area you could save 5 or 6 weeks off the calendar there if you get rid of these these warm-up provincial competitions. I'm not sure the purpose they serve other than trying out lads or getting fellas fit. I don't know. That's one change I can make, and you can get players a bit of more break in season then.
Interesting points, Dan. I suppose. What about yourself, Mr. Byrne?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like, it's the likes of the McGrath Cup down here in Munster, which you know, doesn't hold a massive benefit for anyone really. Like, and you see some big hidings in those games. You know, Kerry are probably trying to hit the ground running, and then they come up against teams like Clare and Waterford who are trying to get their season going, and you know, teams are playing second teams and that, and you know, that could buy you a couple of weeks. It's probably a controversial one, but maybe just run the leagues as leagues, you know, and get rid of the league finals. I know they're a big day out for teams in Croke Park, but like, you know, have the first, second teams go up or have a league winner. It's just a way of maybe buying another couple of weeks because it seems so rushed and condensed. It's small little things. Even the ticketed an issue there for the hurling final. You know, there's 2 weeks between a semi-final and a final, and clubs are only getting their batches of tickets last Friday. You know, the Ireland final on Sunday, and it leaves a massive spare then of people who had applied for tickets through their clubs and through various sources, kind of left with spare tickets on a Saturday, and looking at Facebook, social media, and people trying to sell tickets because they've doubled down on getting tickets, and it's little things like that. It just seems so rushed, and maybe we're looking back at the nostalgic. You know, I remember when we were younger, you'd always have, you know, supporter songs, teams that were in All Ireland, and you know, that takes weeks. Little things like that, it takes weeks. You know, when you had 3-4 weeks to build up to the final, you know, people will make songs and players be getting involved, and there'd be a big hype, and you know, even the newspapers, the coverage, like they're trying to deal with covering the football, covering the hurling, they're on a week after each other. I think there needs to be somewhat of a leeway to give it a little bit of breathing space anyways. But the other side of it is some of the best games I was at last year were the club games in Limerick. Run in, I know we were lucky last year, we got a beautiful summer and August was nice, and just to see, going back to hurling now, to see 5-6 All-Ireland winners on a local pitch 10 days, 2 weeks after winning All Ireland, it was hundreds, I'd say even thousands of people there up in Clahan, for example. I was at a game last year, and you know, the lads who don't play into county, they say it's the best thing that's ever happened. So there has to be a bit of leeway though, I think, because you know, to have an All Ireland hurling final on a week after a football final, and to have the semi-finals on after 2 weeks, there's something has to give, I think, because it's just losing the buzz it had before, I think. And I think the traditionalists are always going to come out in force after COVID, because we had, like, you know, two years of not going to games, so people are nostalgic about what it used to be like before. But small little tweaks, I think, will please both sides.
Simple question to ask, I suppose, Mr. Goulding. Are you a July All-Ireland final or September All-Ireland final man?
I'm still playing club football, so July for me.
Okay.
Do you know what? I'd go with the first week of August, Stephen. The August bank holiday, maybe. Get a small bit more out of the summer, maybe. But regardless of that, I still think there's too many games of poor quality in the season. No, like some of the provincial games, they're not worth watching anymore. Let's be honest. Yeah. Like the championship only really started getting going with the last round of the group games and the qualifyings and the prelim quarterfinals, and even some of them were one-sided. So look, we're talking about it. We're talking about it for years and years. It's improving, but like it's still not there. It's not competitive enough still for me. It's still the top 2 or 3 teams comes down to them every year. Look, I suppose we're totally gone away from, in both codes now at the moment, having a surprise team coming out and win it, or even a team that's in the top 5 or 6. It seems to be down to the top 2 or 3 now in both codes at the moment.
What about yourself, David?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that now. You know, I don't think it matters as much that people will bang on about. You know, people get used to changes and routine, and whether it's August, September, July, I think people get used to it. But it's just, you know, they condensed the season and then they introduced a round robin, and then there was games, you know, and then added to it then, you know, second and third get out of the group. There was no games there where their mentality was that every game was to play for. If you're fourth, you could still probably come third and last thing. But I think it does the opposite to it at times, because you'd rather two teams fighting it out or three teams fighting it out for two spots rather than four teams fighting out for three, because the quality will improve. The games will mean more from the very start. Like, look at Mayo came down to Clarny and beat Kerry. The hype was that Kerry were finished, Mayo were going to win. And as it turned out, Kerry went on and you look at the Tailteann Cup. I think Laois got out of their group and they didn't win a match. Got all the way to the semi-final. They beat Limerick in the quarter-final. To come out of any group after not winning the match, like, there's something wrong there. But to condense the season and then to introduce round robin games, they could do away with that. Just to give it a bit breathing space. The hype of it is gone. But I don't think it matters what type of year or what time of year, because the club game is growing now, and the club game is what.
But I think you make some really good points in that previous day. But you literally just kind of said, like, it gives maybe like teams to prepare more, get maybe songs going, get a bit of crack going, get a bit of camaraderie. Like, I think when All Ireland was in September, and as you well know, when you got to the final in 2009 or 2010, like, it gave, like, preparation is so key going into these sort of events, David.
Yeah, but I think it's the club. It's not the supporters. It's the club players that we need to listen to, because, like, I remember covering 2018, the hurlers. Limerick won the Ireland, obviously, and this is just an example, not to go away from the football, but that I remember covering 2 rounds of games in March and April, and then players, Limerick weren't expected to do what they did that year, and the club players are waiting around not knowing when their next game is, the third round of the game. As it turned out, I don't think it was until September, and it could have been July, it could have been June. How would you plan for that? Like, people have lives outside of it. Now at least right? This is when it's on, and you can plan things, and people have families. I think it prolongs the club player. Then people are more inclined to keep playing if they can plan their lives outside of football or hurling. And but it's just about tweaking the actual inter-county season and getting rid of games and getting rid of, as Dan said there, like the pre-season games that don't matter as much. Like, what's wrong with a couple of challenge games and then start the season maybe a small little bit earlier, and then give it a bit of breathing space. And maybe if you push it back a week or two, it's not the end of the world. But then you can still have the club season as it is going now, which is great for the both codes. Like, so it's just about tweaking the small little things, I think, and listening to the actual player on the ground.
Yeah, you make good points, gents. Any more word on that, Dan, or happy enough?
Yeah, the only other thing I'd say is bar the All-Ireland semi-final and the final, the best games, most exciting games to watch are the league games for me personally. And that's because they're competitive. Mm-hmm. Like, you generally know in all the league games, albeit they're in probably poor conditions, but the games are going to be tight. And you're going into most weekends saying you give either team a squeak, because there's injuries, there's form, there's trying to keep form for a number of weeks. Whereas I think the Dublins and the Kerrys of this world at the moment, the way the championship set up is, they're only peaking late. Like, we got Dublin relegated last year, like, that's competitiveness, like, in the league for me. Like, whereas in championship, like, Kerry, Dublin are going to be at the end. Like, there's no surprises there really, at the moment. And that's why I suppose, like, the league for me is probably the best competition. I'd rather sit down and watch that every Sunday than watch any provincial game at the moment.
Yeah,
bar maybe a couple of the Ulster games.
Yeah.
Look, there's a tweak to be had. It's improved an awful lot, let's be honest, but we still need to get rid of the uncompetitive games, in my mind.
Yeah.
There's a good example there that pops to my mind now. Kerry played Roscommon, I think, in the league this year, and there was pretty much sold out Austin Stack Park. And a couple of weeks later, they played Tipperary in the Munster semi-final, and there was half a crowd. Attendance was, I think, 8,000 or 9,000 for the Tipperary game, and Austin Stack Park, whatever it holds, was full, which was more than twice that, for a league game. And that just shows, people will vote with their feet. If they're not going to, even the most diehard Kerry supporters and going to go out of their way, drive up an hour from South Kerry to go up and watch a game that Kerry are going to win. I think David Clifford could have won that game on his own. That's no disrespect to Tipperary, but it's just the way they're at, and it's just the gulf in classes there at the moment. And I think that's just an example of how people are voting on their feet, voting with their feet, really, because at least the Kerry Roscommon game was competitive, and there was only one outcome for the Kerry Tipperary game, really.
Last question on it, Dan. I suppose when you were playing in 09, 2010, I suppose the build up and leading into the final, I think you've 2-3 weeks. Was it 3 weeks, Dan? I suppose what were the 3 weeks like? Did you enjoy the 3 weeks to build up into a final?
You would, yeah. Look, it was either 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, it was. Look, you're in generally good conditions. There's a great buzz around the place. Probably 3 weeks is probably the most suitable. You get 2 weekends. We used to go away the weekend before it. It wasn't rushed. You get all your tickets, kind of suits, everything logistically squared away in the first week. So you 2 weeks then to just think about playing the game. Yeah, it was. I think would I have preferred 2 weeks? Probably not. 3 weeks was just about right, I think, for me. And then the only thing again you didn't like then is you're out playing club championship the week after. Regardless if you win, loss, you're playing probably the first week of October. You're playing club championship, and it's just a slogfest then for intercounty lads, and it's unfair on lads that can't even have their few points probably for the final. Because they have club championship the week after, and they're waiting the whole summer around doing nothing. So, look, I definitely think the split season is the way to go. Maybe extend it by a week or two more, but I wouldn't go any further than that. You need your club players playing in the summer as well.
Good stuff, lads. Always good to have a bit of debate and a bit of crack before we get going. So we will crack into the action, lads. 1 game to go. It's the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship Final between Dublin and Kerry, the old rival in Croke Park at 3:30 this Sunday. And of course, the game will be live on RTE and BBC, not GA Go, so everybody can calm down. Daniel Goulding, here we go.
Yeah, interesting one. I think it'll go to the wire. I don't expect it any other way. I think it'll be cagey. I know Jack O'Connor was at the press night the other night. He was saying both teams like to play on the front foot. I don't think we'll see that at the weekend. Kerry won 114 to 113 last year. Cagey enough affair at times. And kind of came to life in the last quarter an hour, 20 minutes, with Dublin kind of mounting resurgence. For me, I think it'll come down to the best player in the country, and I think Kerry will just sneak it on the back of David Clifford again like last year. I just think he's taken his game to another level. I think Dublin probably have a better front six, but I think Clifford will be the difference. I don't think Dublin are going to be able to handle him. That'll be my opinion. I think the bigger the occasion, the better he gets. And I think Kerry got caught in the semi-final. I think they probably, without even thinking it, underestimated Derry a small bit. They put so much energy into Tyrone because people were second-guessing them. And there was a bit of a lull then for the Derry game. And I think now, look, that Derry game will sharpen them again. I think they'll be fully focused. And unfortunately for me, I think they'll do it 2 in a row is my gut feeling. I just think between Clifford and Jack O'Connor doesn't lose finals really. He has a knack of winning them, and I know Gilroy's come in with Daisy this year, and Dublin have tightened up. You can see they don't waste the ball as much as they have in the last couple of years. They're back more in the kind of Jim Gavin ilk of playing as a team, but I don't know. I just don't. When it gets to finals, I don't second question Jack, and especially with Clifford there. I think they'll win a close one.
Absolutely, Dan. I suppose the form going into this, we've seen Kerry against Derry the last day out, and obviously David Clifford striking 9 points, Sean O'Shea 4 points. I suppose no scores from Paul Geaney. I think Kerry will need that whole forward line, half forward line work this weekend, Dan, but we can't get away from Mr. David Clifford. 9 points, 4 frees. He is something else.
Yeah, look, he is. Look, there's no point in talk. We've always waxed lyrically about him on this pod, and so does everyone else. I think you're right, though. I think like Paddy Clifford is going to have a massive game. It's been quiet this year. Paul Geaney, be interesting to see will Jack stick with him again.
Sorry, Dan. Paddy's been quiet on the pitch, but not two lads. But he's been quiet on the pitch, but not lads. Not to say for himself. Not to say for himself.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, like, will he stick with Paul Geaney again? Will they think about starting Stephen O'Brien? I probably think not. I think they'll go with the two, Moynihan and Spillane again, to go horsing and sorting out affairs with work rate for the first 30-40 minutes and spring Stephen O'Brien again. Be interesting to see if Killian Spillane gets any airtime. I know he'd been out injured and he wasn't even on the panel, but he's back now. Will they spring him for 10-15 minutes? And Tony Brosnan, can he make an impact? But I think you're right, John. Kerry are going to have to get a bit more out of the other four forwards besides O'Shea and Clifford. But even a point or two from one or two lads would be enough. Because I think Clifford, from what I've seen, unless Dublin stray away from their normal game plan, Dublin aren't that defensive in terms of playing a sweeper. So, like Ryan O'Donoghue in the first half for Mayo, while Mayo were on top, made hay. Dublin looked very vulnerable at the back. I think Murchan was playing sweeper, didn't really fulfill the role that well. Be interesting to see what they do now. Will they go Michael Fitzsimons on Clifford and put Howard back in front of him? That will probably free Morley on the other side and let Kerry implement their defensive plan as well. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I think if the other four Kerry forwards can chip in with a score here and there, as opposed to what they're kind of doing at the moment, which isn't providing much bar work rate, I think it'll be a big plus for Kerry.
Oh yeah, 100%. Dan, I suppose you've kind of been quite honest. Without David Clifford, Kerry probably would be struggling to a degree, Dan, and it's probably clear to be seen from everyone kind of watching on. Like, is that the brass tacks of it? Without David Clifford, Kerry probably would be struggling a lot, Dan.
Like, I think they'd come back to the pack a bit, and look, to be fair, Sean O'Shea as well. To a lesser extent, but they're the two leading guys there. Dublin have been, I wouldn't say reliant on Con, but he's still done most of the scoring from them. Like, he's 224, I think 223 from play this year. But like Costello and Bascoil have stepped up. I'm still kind of scratching my head over Kilkenny. I don't understand it, other than they want a really big impact off the bench. But that's another like big call again for this final. Will they go with Scully again? Will Bugler be back fit? They're saying it's touch and go. Will they start Kilkenny? Personally, I think they have to in All Ireland final against Kerry. I don't think you can afford to leave Kilkenny on the bench. But getting back to Clifford, like the scores don't lie. Like he got, I think, 6 points against Dublin last year, 5 from play. He got whatever he did in the All Ireland final. He pretty much carried him on his back in the All Ireland final against Galway last year. He carried him on his back last week. Like he is the main man for them, and so far he hasn't been stopped on the big days in Croke Park. And I think if he's not stopped again this weekend, I think Kerry will win again.
I suppose, Dan, like, from Paddy Clifford's end, and I suppose we'll focus in on Dublin in a few minutes, but from Paddy Clifford, what are you kind of looking from like Paddy Clifford this weekend? Like, he did a good performance against Derry last day out and kicked a few nice scores. But so what do you want to see from Paddy this weekend?
Look, I think we all know Paddy Clifford is a fella who will come out, collect the ball, ask questions of the defence, either give a good ball in or else punch a hole. I think at the moment, is it because teams are so defensive against Kerry, he's probably struggling to get on the ball a bit, which is something you wouldn't have said about him last year. You would have said last year he was a magnet to the ball. So look, players and all inter-county players at different stages go through, I suppose, losses of form or maybe tiredness. You just don't know, but like I think you need to just see the bit of buzz back in him. Like when he's at full tilt, you have to worry about him, and he brings other players into the game, and he's very dangerous. And I'm not sure we saw enough of that yet this year. Like you saw a bit of it against Clare in the Munster final. It was dangerous that day, and I know there was other circumstances there with the passing of their mother, but I'd like to see him get back to that dangerous kind of elusive fella that can carry the ball, look up, get into dangerous areas a bit more.
Yeah, but not against Cork then. Not against Cork.
Not against Cork.
Everyone else.
We actually do okay against the two of them. It's a funny one.
Yeah, noticed that, yeah.
So maybe it's not a big enough day for them. I don't know at the moment.
Don't rule yourselves out, Dan. Don't rule yourselves out. Mr. Byrne, this weekend, what are we thinking? Obviously, you're on the ground in Kerry there, working for the Kerry IE newspaper. You know Kerry like the back of your hand. What's the buzz and excitement like there up this weekend, this week, man?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, like, you know, the talk a couple of years ago was this team was kind of still in transition and still kind of, you know, we all remember what happened against Cork in 2020 and then the Winter Championship, and there just seemed to be, you know, there was questions over this team, were they lacking a bit of character, and you know, they showed it there last year, I suppose, when they needed to, and they're growing into a good team now, like, but there is still that talk, are they over-reliant on a couple of players, or even one, even Clifford, and I think he could be the difference now on Sunday. You know, the Derry game will really stand to Kerry, I think. You know, to come out the right end of it was exactly what they would have needed. I think Jack is the type of manager who would look back, he would prefer that type of game rather than actually, you know, comfortably going through. And there was question marks asked about them. You know, they would have done their work now, I think, coming up to final. They would have learned a lot from Dublin and beating them in the semi-final last year. You know, that could have went either way as well. It'll come down to a kick of a ball, but like you saw Clifford, you know, you can mark him as tightly as you want, and Derry did it. Well, he doesn't even need a couple of inches. You know, he's I think he'll be the difference. But the feeling on the ground is kind of quietly confident, I think. You know, a stark contrast, I think, between Limerick the last couple of weeks and Kerry, because, you know, this is a once-in-a-generation team for Limerick, whether Kerry, there's nearly an expectance now every couple of years to be getting into finals and winning it, and I think that pressure has been taken off that team now. They won it last year, so I think they're playing with a bit more freedom this year, and I think that'll stand them now on Sunday. There's also then an extra incentive that, you know, it's been talked about maybe by the older cohort down here that, you know, I think that the names that come to mind now with Cluxton and James McCarthy and Fitzgibbons is that if Dublin win on Sunday, they'll pass out the Kerry famous five from the 70s and 80s.
Oh God, yeah. Like that's 9 All Irelands, isn't it? 9.
8. They
Christ.
will have 9, yeah.
But like if they win on Sunday, will be 9, won't it?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. So they'll pass out. You know, it's just that extra narrative. Like, you know, everyone knows the Ger Power, Pat Spillane, etc. And
yeah,
you nearly Pat could come back in for another Ireland, knowing him, but you know, it's just.
You'd have to write a book. You'd have to write a book about Dublin, Dave. That'd be the next one. You'd have to write a book about Dublin next. You're probably bad from Dublin. Go on.
We'll do one on the Limerick 6 in a row, sure.
Oh yeah, it's coming.
But you know, that's the next kind of talking point as well. Like, you know, I think just the Dublin Kerry rivalry goes back so many years as well. Like, but I was even looking at it during the week. I think with the first game of Kerry's 4 in a row in the late 70s and early 80s, Dublin had won in 77 and 78. Kerry blew them out of the water. I think they won by 17 points or something. You know, it's just after Dublin winning it the year before. I think it'll be a little bit closer this year, but it just shows you how quickly things can change in the year. You know, and I think Dublin will give them a huge challenge, but I just think that Kerry do have that slight advantage, and that hunger seems to be there after last year. People question that maybe they mightn't have the hunger to go again after a long season. So I think Kerry will nick it, but it'll come down to a point or two. I think it'll be a fascinating game. I think it'll be slow to get going. Dublin like to hold on to the ball. Kerry are quite similar in that way. I think the likes of Paddy Clifford as well comes onto the ball and is a bit more of a player maker that we saw earlier in the season than last year. I think Kerry will nick it, but slightly.
I suppose Dan or Dave, you make a good point. Obviously, maybe less expectancy of the Kerry team, and obviously put a lot of pressure on them last year to get their hands on that Sam Maguire. So, do you think that maybe less expectancy this year has kind of suited that Kerry team, and maybe most of the players have been, I suppose, allowed express themselves, Debbie?
Yeah, Dan might have more of an insight in this, playing in their county, but the pressures and I suppose the once you get that first Ireland, it's nearly expected out in Kerry, and what did it go 7-8 years without winning Ireland? I think that pressure was the mindset coming, not maybe so much to players, but from supporters that this was expected. I think Peter Keane felt it as well when he was manager. That pressure was there to play a certain way, and often he went out to try not to lose rather than try to win, if that makes sense. And I think as much as Jack has tightened up that defence, he's also allowed them to play, and he's allowed the like Clifford, I suppose, that little bit more freedom, and he is a game winner. And I think from winning that last year, that pressure is off their backs. And I think you've seen it in times this year. I know there's a gulf in class in the opposition, but against Clare in the final, they attacked from the get-go. And even against Mayo, I think that they were easy pickings. I think they had massive problems that day in midfield. But they played good attacking football that day, and I think just Mayo got through them. But I think since then they've been building and are hitting the peak at the right time. But yeah, to answer your question, I think after winning last year, I think it's that pressure. They're allowed to go and play with a little bit more freedom and not worry about possibly losing on Sunday. I think the focus will be try to win.
I suppose, David, the Kerry kind of public consensus, I suppose, what have you maybe made of Kerry in the last few games? Obviously, the game against Derry, a real kind of dogfight, a war of attrition to get over the line. What have you made of Kerry, I suppose, in the All-Ireland run, Davy?
Yeah, I think whether it's planned or not, they seem to be on a huge trajectory since that Mayo game. And they're, as I said, peaking at the right time. And they didn't get it easy against Derry, but they knew how to win it. And I think other teams in the past, maybe Kerry teams, maybe looking back before Jack came in, wouldn't have had that spirit, that dog to pull that game out of the bag. So I think that they've been on an upward curve since that Mayo game, which is massive going into the final. But so are Dublin as well, and they're both expected to win their provisional. So I think that after that, it's about kind of trying to peak at the right time. But it's very similar to, I suppose, Mayo for years. That's all people seem to be talking about over the last couple of weeks. And whether that feeds into the players' mindset, it's hard to know. But it seems that they're going into it, with expectations, but also without that huge pressure that was maybe there for the last couple of years.
Oh, really whetting the appetite for this one. I suppose, Dan, yourself, obviously Dublin going into this game, hit form against a very good Mayo team. We all thought had a chance at Sam in the quarterfinal, and obviously brushing aside Monaghan the last day out, Dan. So it was hitting and peaking at the right time. Dublin's form going into this, Mr. Goulding.
Yeah, it's. I think they really announced themselves the second half of the Mayo game. That's when I suppose the third quarter of that game, especially, very clinical in how they put the game to bed. James McCarthy is, I suppose, carrying the torch at him in the middle of the field with Fenton. That's going to be a huge duel now on Sunday. Barry usually goes on Fenton to I suppose limit him as much as he can. It's going to be a big ask again for Jack Barry, especially the form Fenton's in. And then look, Diarmuid O'Connor was excellent against Tyrone. That's a huge challenge for him against James McCarthy as well. So look, that's going to be one huge battle. I think Dublin, as I said it earlier. I think I'm siding with Kerry, but I wouldn't be surprised for a second if Dublin won it. They probably have a more balanced team, I would say, overall. But the one or two big playmakers for Kerry kind of swing it for me. I think it's a massive game for Basquel now. He had a quiet semi-final after being excellent against Mayo. Going to be a massive game for him. Costello's been lighting it up with the last two outings. He'll need another big game. Con is Con. Look, he's going to take minding. He hasn't probably got to the heights in the last two games of probably other years or even earlier in the year, but still, if they play him at full forward, I presume Foley will pick him up. It'll be a huge battle. And Con's the kind of fellow out of nowhere could bang 2 goals. He's just that dangerous. So I suppose, look, the matchups are going to be very interesting. And as I said, Gilroy in with Daisy, I think that's a big plus for Dublin. I think two minds are always better than one. These lads have 2 All-Irelands now, and I think they say he's the mayor for or he's much more than that anyway. You can be sure of that.
If
Dublin,
not the manager.
Dublin probably, depending on who they start, have the better bench. You'll have Jack McCaffrey coming on. You're going to have potentially.
Does Jack start? Does Jack start this weekend, Dan?
I don't think he will. Personally, and I to be honest with you, the reason I think he hasn't proved he can last 70 minutes yet this year, really.
Very sure.
And I think the impact he can give for 20 minutes would be better than having him playing for 50 minutes. Whereas, to my mind, I still think Kilkenny can have a massive impact throughout the game. He won an All-Star last year on the back of the last 20 minutes against Kerry, and he'd been playing the whole game. And I think Scully probably hasn't been giving enough at the moment to justify starting him for 40 minutes to do the donkey work. To me, I think Kilkenny is able to sustain that for the 70 minutes. Look, it's a funny one. Dublin have match winners all over the pitch, but some of them aren't playing that well this year. Mannion has been good. He's been for a comeback player, but I don't think he's hit the heights of what he has in previous years.
3 points last year.
I think in both teams, you can pick holes all through the year with them. I think Dublin couldn't get over Roscommon. Drew Roscommon in the group stages. Played a patient game with Monaghan. Had to wait for the last 10 minutes, which we knew they would. Kerry looked average at times this year. Cork could have possibly beaten them. Derry definitely could have beaten them if they took their chances. But I think there's holes to be picked in both teams. I don't think it's like a Limerick situation where you're going in definite on either of them. But yeah, look, for me, it still comes back to Clifford. I don't know, until he doesn't play well in one of the big games, I'd nearly side with Kerry. That's just what has it swung for me.
Yeah, he's a ridiculous talent. I suppose obviously Cormac Costello 7 points the last day, Dan, kind of picking up from maybe where the likes of Byrne Brogan, I suppose Dean Rock in years gone by. He was prolific against Monaghan, and I kind of reminded, as I said in the last podcast, Byrne Brogan circa 2013, 2014, 2015, Dan.
Yeah, look, this will be a big game for him. I think I think the two teams he played against the last 2 games got their matchups wrong. Mayo had a whore on him, and I think Monaghan had Boyle on him, the centre back. I would imagine Tom Sullivan's going to pick up Costello here now, and that's going to be a different challenge altogether. And look, that's going to be a ferocious battle to my mind. Tom Sullivan is probably their best man marker, but he's also lethal going forward. So I suppose Costello to repeat what he did in the last 2 games, that'll really announce him kind of take you over the mantle from Bernard Brogan to an extent. Look, he's a classy footballer, and this is his chance now on the really big stage to I suppose carry that Dublin forward line along with Con. And Basquel could catch fire too. You just don't know. He's done it in the past. In the past this season, albeit he was quite in the semi-final. But look, they've a dangerous inside line, and you've no doubt Kerry are going to want to release Morley as well and get him kind of sweeping in front of them.
I suppose, Dan, Stephen Cluxton, 41 years of age, going for his 9th All-Ireland this weekend. Dan, what more can you say about that man?
Yeah, look, it's incredible. He's come back into it. Hasn't missed a beat, really. Just nerves of steel. Makes Dublin tick, like, and probably no coincidence. They struggled a bit more the last 2 years. Like, it's probably not a coincidence. But yeah, look, that's going to be an interesting battle too on both fronts. Shane Ryan on the other side is also, I suppose, a weapon for the Kerry kick out, and how both teams push up on each other is going to be a huge defining kind of facet of the game. Like, for some reason, Kerry only did, like, you see the difference when Kerry pushed up and Derry. Now, I know Derry were tired at the end, but like, Derry couldn't get the ball for the last 10 minutes of that game. And Kerry, when they push up, I've seen them do it to Cork. They've done it to Cluxton in the past. When they push up and put 4 in the full forward line and 4.5 forward line, they mount a challenge to win the ball against them. Like, and I'd love to see both teams push up and be vulnerable on their kickouts, that they're really going for it instead of conceding kickouts. Be interesting to see. Will Kerry do it from the start? Will they pick times to do it? Probably like they did against Derry. And the same from Dublin. It's just an intriguing final. The matchups are intriguing. I suppose the tactics are intriguing. There's a great storyline behind it with, I suppose, Kerry doing 2 in a row, Clifford kind of inserting himself as more of a god, and Sean O'Shea. And then, look, the lads going for nine All-Irelands on the other side, and James McCarthy probably going down as one of the best players ever. It's kind of it's a perfect final in many ways. And again, probably gets diluted a small bit because of Limerick yesterday, and I suppose the performance they put in. And they'll be taking plaudits for a couple of days, and because I was even looking for previews there just online. There's no previews out yet really for this final, which is mad.
That's why we're doing it tonight, to get it in.
Exactly. Searching for material, I was under serious pressure.
You looked very stressed.
Yeah. Look, a 2 week build up could have been, 2 week build up probably would have been very nice going into this game.
Yeah. Oh, I can only imagine what the Dublin and Kerry lads, how they're feeling this week. Daniel Goulding, what are we thinking about the form of Jeremy O'Connor going into this particular game? They will need him and every bit of him this weekend.
Sorry, you broke up there a second. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, no, just the form of Jeremy O'Connor of Kerry going into this particular game. Obviously, midfield, so important in the modern game. The Jeremy O'Connor, Jack Barry, they will need to be fully functioning this weekend, Dan.
Absolutely. Look, against Tyrone, they kind of set the tone. Jeremy O'Connor got man of the match. Laid the platform for Kerry, I suppose. Struggled a bit with the 2 lads from Derry, as a lot of the Kerry team did. And look, there'll be no doubt these lads have a massive hours work or 70 minutes work ahead of them. Like, Jack Barry always slogs with Fenton. Suppose tries to stop Fenton imposing his game, and I think Jeremy O'Connor is going to have to ask questions of James McCarthy going the other way as well, from an attacking point of view. I don't think he can let James McCarthy dictate the game, because as we've seen, like, James can take over games. I suppose he's the heartbeat of Dublin, really. And look, a ferocious battle. It's going to be it's going to be huge. And if Dublin are to win, look, they're going to target this area big time. And hope that it sets up a platform to get good fast ball into their forwards as well.
Obviously, David, in years gone by, we've seen the strength and power and depth that has came off the Dublin bench, and so was their bench has really kind of won them so many All-Irelands in the past. I suppose the strength and depth has improved this year, but it's definitely not the same from years gone by.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I think the Kerry midfield is integral to stop that as well. I think, and you mentioned it there, but yeah, it's not the same as, I suppose, the 6 in a row team, the strength that they could bring on players at the time you would have even thought that would be starting. But like when you have the likes of, I suppose, Brian Fenton being able to come on and I think that's where the game probably will be won in midfield. That I think there's a nice story, I suppose, to the backside, Jack Barry and O'Connor, that the club mates, obviously, and only 3 years ago they won an Ireland junior club championship, and Nicole have gone straight up through the ranks and are playing senior now and competing with the likes of Stacks and O'Reilly's and Tralee, that have been there for so long, and they're a new enough club, but I think that partnership is growing. I think they struggled against Mayo earlier in the year. If Dublin do target that like Derry did, I think it could swing it. But as Dan said there, it's so hard to call. It's so hard to call, and I think that Dublin's bench is what will keep them going right to the end. But look at Kerry as well. I think they'll go unchanged. Jack O'Connor's not a man to change a winning team, and again, he was a small bit off last week or 2 weeks ago now, and I think that he's there and he does create space for the likes of Clifford, but I think
is that a worry for Kerry going into this, David? The former Paul Geaney, because Dan, for winning All Ireland 2010, you need your full forward line ticking.
Yeah, well, when you look out, you take Clifford out of the full forward line. I think Paulie started up there and he pushed back, but this is 1 point. Only 1 point outside of Clifford in the full forward line. That is kind of worrying, I suppose. But Geaney's role, I think, the last day was to create space for the likes of Clifford, and I think that's what got him in the spell they had in the second half. He came more into the game, but what was it? He's 100 championship game there recently. I think he's or 50. Sorry, and I think he's integral to that team. He mightn't be. You can even get on the score sheet, I suppose, against Derry, but I don't think Jack will change the team much. Stephen O'Brien was a game changer, I think, when he came on, running exactly what they needed, running at Derry. Derry were winning the kickouts, winning everything, and Dan touched it there. When Kerry did push up, it changed the game, and I think but that allowed him to do the likes of Stephen O'Brien. He was more of a runner. Dara Moynihan, and Clifford even, they're hard workers. They chase back. That Stephen O'Brien just came on and he run at the Derry defence. I think he'll go with the same kind of concept and brings O'Brien on again, but maybe a little bit earlier. I'd go with Geaney again. He offers that target that I think Kerry might need. You'd hope to see maybe that midfield kick it in a bit more, using Clifford's advantage, using Geaney's advantage, because I think Geaney struggled to get on the ball a lot the last time because the Derry defence was fairly compressed in the first half, especially.
Yeah. Oh God, lads, it really is such a hard game to call, really, when you do look at all of these matchups. Make no doubt about it. And we did see the influence of Stephen Bryan the last day out, David, and he cooked a great score to basically push Kerry over the line. He could be a huge difference this weekend in this particular game once again.
Yeah, I think what he brought was, Kerry are patient. They pass the ball around. They look for space. They look to bring Clifford into the game. Paddy Clifford drops deeper. He's a bit of a playmaker. But what Stephen O'Brien had when he came on, he got the ball. He ran. He reminded me, I suppose, Darren O'Sullivan type player coming on. Years ago when he first burst onto the scene, and he was kind of known as a bit of a super sub and coming on. But that's what he brought. When teams were tired, he'd run at you, and psychologically, when you see someone running at you and 60 minutes gone, you're going to question yourself. You're going to track back. You're going to sit a little bit deeper. And he brought something a bit different to Kerry, and he could be the difference. Anyone could be the difference. I think he just changed the game. He changed the way Kerry kind of had to play. And I don't think he'll start on Sunday. I think he'll go with the same team, as I said. But yeah, he's a fantastic option to come on. And he was hit by injuries. It was nice to see him come on and have the impact he did the last day.
Oh, yes, 100%, lads. David Goff, the man in the middle, Dan, for this weekend. What are we thinking?
Look, he's top quality ref, albeit I think he changed the game. Cork and Kerry, and my bias hat on down in the park a couple of months ago. I think maybe we'd have knocked Kerry out at that stage. I think if he'd given us a small bit of hand. But he's one of the top refs in the country. He's a funny ref. He lets it go in many regards, but then he's very on the technical rules. He's very quick to pull them. So look, he'll try and let it flow. I think if anything was, and if yesterday was anything to go by, he'll be told let it flow. Look, the game yesterday was so good because it was let flow, and I think you don't want an All-Ireland final that's full of frees realistically. Again, another thing, and this is just a bugbear of mine, we saw it in the 2 semi-finals. I don't like referees from the same province reffing finals. It's just not for me. You two Ulster refs reffing 2 Ulster teams in the semi-final. You'll have David Goff reffing a Leinster team in the All-Ireland final.
Meath man reffing Dublin.
Yeah, I just don't like it personally. I think there might be nothing to it. It could be subconsciously there's something to it. It might just be in my own head, but the country's big enough that you can pull someone from a province that's not a ref, that's from a province of the counties that are participating in it to ref the game. That would be my view. But in general, you'd imagine and you'd hope, like these refs are the top refs in the country, you'd be hoping they won't have an impact in the game. The game will play itself.
Mr. Byrne, what are we thinking? David Goff, based on his performances this year in games, does he deserve the final this weekend? Of course, he is going to be the ref, but what are we thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought John Keenan was fantastic yesterday for the hurling final, and I think Goff will be very similar. He does let it flow, and you know, if you're a supporter or a player on one side, it can possibly frustrating at times if there's a call there that might be 50-50 that you could have went one. But I think as long as you're balanced, as long as it's it's fair on both sides in terms of letting it flow, I think that's what people want to see, because football has become very tactical and stop-start at times. I think the games I think that he has refed, they have been good games because he does let it go. And it's the kind of game that needs a ref like him now on Sunday. I think there will be a big call. It's going to be feisty. It's going to be physical. There will be a big call. I think that he will have to make. But I do think that in overall in the game he does let it flow, and I think that's what this game needs, because it could easily turn into a tactical chess game, in terms of both sides not trying to show a hand earlier on. And I think if he does let it flow as predicted, that it will be a good game. And I think that's what people want.
Oh, not long to go, lads. Not long to go. Dublin v Kerry. Dan, grand scheme of things, overall, do Dublin. I think, Dan must be. Yeah, there he is. Yeah. No problem. Just last few, Dan, I suppose Dublin, on the grand scheme of things, do deserve to be in the position. Of course, obviously, they're in the position they are in, but overall, they deserve to be in the All-Ireland final, in your reckoning?
They do. They most definitely do. They probably, in many respects, they've coasted to here. They got promoted from Division 2, albeit not that impressively. I suppose Desi was trying to get players back in. He find his best 15. Coasted through Leinster realistically. Maybe not as easily as usual, but still fair. There wasn't much to it. Drew Roscommon and then had 2 easy games to get out of the group, and I suppose dismantled Monaghan Mayo then in the second half. And I suppose let Monaghan hang around for 60 minutes, but I think when the game was there to be won and the bench was empty, they won. So they probably comfortably enough got to the final. Now the one concern you might have about them is, have they really gone to the well yet? They've found the semi-final and final. It didn't come down to the last couple of minutes. Like Kerry have been there a couple of times this year. They've been there with Cork. They lost to Mayo. They've been there with Derry. They've been in the trenches in the last couple of minutes. something that might be a factor. They pipped them. Kerry pipped them last year, last kick of the game. So Kerry are quite comfortable going into the last minute, into injury time, down a point or level. So look, be interesting to see. You'd imagine Dublin, with the quality they have and the All-Ireland medals they have, they'll be quite comfortable if it goes to the wire. But as we know, these games tend to hang on 2 or 3 plays that go wrong for one team and right for the other team. So one thing to note that, look, wouldn't call it a concern, but look, this will be potentially Dublin's first time really being asked a big question in the last couple of minutes of a game at the business end.
Absolutely, Dan. Absolutely. And that's why we are looking forward to it, Mr. Byrne. Kerry, they're in the position they're in. Did they deserve to be there?
Yeah. I think that touches it there. Dublin probably winning their games a little bit more comfortably. But that is a measure of the good team that they are, I think, rather than the fact that they have an easy pathway, because the Blue Mayo team expected to do very, very well this year, out of the water in the quarterfinal, and Kerry on the other side, probably made it more difficult than they should have against the likes of Derry. Losing to Mayo, weren't at their best against Cork, still won. When they had to win, then they blew loud out of the water. It'll stand to them, the tough challenges that they faced. Tyrone game, physically strong. They played very well against Tyrone, I thought, after probably disappointing round robin. Derry game will stand to them, as I said. So I think it's a sign of a good team if you're not playing your best and you make it to an All-Ireland final. So I've 100% deserve to be here. They're All-Ireland champions for a reason, but I think you could look at it both sides. Dublin winning comfortably, not coming down to the wire. Will that stand to them in the final? Probably not. On the other side of it, will Kerry getting over the line and struggling over the line, having to come back against Derry? Will that stand them? It will. But it's also a sign that maybe they're not hitting the form they were last year. And also, teams have gone more defensive. They always do, and they're playing Ireland champions and trying to stop the best team in the country. So it could swing both ways in that way, but they obviously deserve to be there. It just depends on how they deal with it on the day, I think, because Dublin could come into this final a small bit cold. Kerry will have learned massive lessons from Derry, and that could stand to them. And but that's why I think it'll come right down to it. Possibly the last kick of the game, because both teams are coming into this in kind of different forms, different motivations. There's just so much talking points. I think it's going to be about water, and it might be tactically a bit tough to watch maybe at the start. It'll open up then, I think, and I think people that really understand football and appreciate a good defensive display will enjoy it. Like, I think it's just it's a matter of what lessons Kerry have learned from the Derry game, really, to answer it, because I think that's the challenge that they did need coming into what they'll face now on Sunday.
Oh my God, it's Monday. Can it be Sunday yet? Daniel Goulding, one game to go. Player to watch this weekend. Is there any value this weekend?
Player to watch this weekend. Well, look, I've said it from the start, so I'm not going to change my tune now. So, to be honest, there are two teams. There are two teams that are very evenly matched. Kerry are kind of, I won't say the new kids on the block, but they're reigning All-Ireland champions. They're improving year on year with a new team. Dublin are trying to transition with a bunch of the old brigade and some new lads. But they all have nearly everyone on the pitches, All-Ireland medals hanging off them now at this stage. So for me, it comes down to David Clifford. I can't look any other way from it. If he plays like he did against Tyrone, I think they might struggle. I'm not saying he played bad, but he didn't dominate. But I think he just proves that he dominates in the big games when it's needed. When the rest of the Kerry lads, I suppose, are struggling a bit, he'll carry them. And yeah, I just think, look, it's a toss-up, and it's him that's winning it for me. So, and Sean O'Shea then look behind him, and look, I think there's probably a big game in Paddy as well. He's a man for the big occasion as well. So we often forget everything that David's won, Paddy's won it as well over the last couple of years. So look, I think there'll be a big kick in him as well, and
that suits Paddy, Daniel, doesn't it? It does suit Paddy. Like, you know, we can go into these games and not much pressure on him to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, like as I said, I think Dublin have probably a more balanced team and squad, but I think Kerry have the couple of match winners, and if it's a dogged, tight, defensive affair, I think the match winners generally, I'd side with them. So look, I'd say Clifford will be the man, and I think there's a big game in Paddy too.
Ooh, what about a draw, Dan? Any value in the draw? 7-1.
Loads of value in it. It's look, we've like this. I think we'll be shocked if either team wins this by 3 or 4 points. It's going to go to the wire. Like Sean O'Shea's kick last year, if you didn't get it, you'd a draw. So look, it's going to be extremely tight margins. As I said, these finals generally come down to 2 or 3 plays that go right for one team and wrong for another team. Could say the same with Derry last week. Derry probably had their 2 or 3 chances that they didn't take, and Kerry capitalised on it again. So look, it's draw is definitely good value. I don't know. Then the only other one would be someone like a Peter Case, you know, stepping up, kind of, that we haven't really talked about that much, and just setting the place alight. Mannion, could there be a big kick in Mannion? Could there be a kick in Gainey? Like he has the class. Could he rattle off 1, 2, or 3? Like, you know, that's just a fascinating game. Look, there's no 2 ways about it. It's one of the All-Ireland finals you'll be looking to for the last number of years, really.
Repeat of 2019, please, August. Thank you, Mr. Byrne. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I tend to side with Daniel there. I know it's maybe probably a bit of a boring narrative at this stage, but I think Clifford is a one in a generation player, and it could come down to that to him at the end. And you know, I think someone was comparing him during the week, because I remember talking to people. You know, you're down here and talking to people talk about Kerry footballers and legends of the past, and people like Mikey Sheehy, the Gooch, and now people are starting to talk about David Clifford in that same light. In terms of, you talk to people that would have been around when Mikey Sheehy was playing, and did they appreciate him at the time? And you said, you know what, they probably don't, because when you're watching him, it's not until players like that retire and down the line you realise, you know, how good he actually was, and you look back and you talk about it. And I think it's the same with Clifford now. I think people are appreciating him, but I don't think they realise how good, and if it makes sense in terms of, you know, how actually good he is, and what he does things with such ease now that maybe we've never seen before, and we're starting to take it as granted, you know, that he is able to do it. I think with the matchups, it will be interesting in terms of Kerry going forward, the likes of Graham Sullivan and Gavin White. I don't think they'll be given the freedom. Or Thomas Sullivan, is he going to bomb forward when he's Costello to mark? You know, he's not. So they'll be relying on the likes of Gainey and the likes that their full forward line to get the scores. And outside of Clifford last day, I think Paddy was the only one that got the point in the full forward line. It's kind of, they'll need a big game if they are to get over the line, and you can't be relying on 1 or 2 players. But the matchups are going to be fascinating.
Sean O'Shea 4 points to the last day.
Yeah. So, you know, I think there's value in the draw, right? There's value for the GA if there's a draw after extra time. They're going to love another 80,000, 90 euros. But
even more. How much a premium? How much are the boxes? Huh?
The hill evens it out. Cheap for 15 euros, stand out in the rain for tours. But anyways, yeah, and I hope the weather's better for the football final. It was awful yesterday, and I think Dan touched it there. Casey, fantastic player, has been brilliant for Limerick over the last few years, but he's a little bit quieter than I likes of Glenn and Flanagan. Flanagan has been on top form this year, and Casey, he gets the points, he brings Glenn into the game. But yesterday, the 50-minute, I think Kerry, the game could come down to that on either side as well. Someone that we don't expect, because people could be marked out of the game. He's impossible to mark, but he could bring someone else beside him into the game. It's all about confidence, If Gainey gets an early goal, it could be a fluky goal, but then he's full of confidence then, and he picks off another couple of points, and that could be the difference. And he could have a point to prove after being taken off the last day as well. And he could be looking over his shoulder, thinking, "Well, Stephen O'Brien starting instead of me," and who knows how well he's going in training this week and the last week. So, it could be someone like that. That's the match winner, because he'll come down to right down to the wire, which is why it will be so fascinating. And you might get that extended season you want if it does go to replay.
Ooh, absolutely. 1 week. Oh, holy moly, lads. The tension is palpable. Thank God none of us... Well, I know, obviously, David, you're on the ground there, but geez, if it was one of our counties, I don't know what kind of form we'd be in. Daniel Goulding, what is your plan for this Sunday?
Try and get the kids on Cocoa Melon or Peppa Pig or something for an hour and a half while I get the TV to myself. That's about it. We've championship as well Saturday night, so recover from that. No doubt I'll be crippled after it.
Massage gun, buddy. Massage gun.
Yeah. So just looking forward to sitting down watching it. Thoroughly enjoyed, albeit just enjoyed watching the game yesterday. The intensity, the first half, there's no denying as well. The final in both codes is just different gravy. The hits, the intensity. You just don't see it till the final. I've no doubt. It'll be the same. The hits, the tackling tomorrow or Sunday will be ferocious. So just looking forward to sitting back, watching it. Don't know who I want. I actually don't know who I want to win. Probably Dublin. But just watch it as a spectacle. I was there in 19, the replay, or the first day. Cork were playing the minor final before. Just fabulous day out. Look, two teams that have the utmost respect for each other, have history, tradition. So yeah, it's the final. Everyone wants All Ireland medals all over the pitch. Just two sets of quality players going at it, toe to toe. You can't ask for any more, really.
You didn't fancy having a few pints of Guinness with the Kerry fans in Drumcondra on Sunday, Dan?
No, look, that's their day. I let them at it. Maybe if I had someone mind me the kids, but look.
You're offering.
Yeah, we should put up a tweet. Can anyone mind Daniel Goulding's kids on Sunday?
Yeah,
rates. Good deals going. Huh?
We'll grab them up.
Yeah, send them down, Dan. Send them down. I don't know. It'll be me looking after them. That's all I can guarantee you. Sure. Mr. Byrne.
Surely sending them up, John, not down. Surely sending them up.
Up or down. It's all the same these days, Dan. Mr. Byrne, what are you doing this Sunday?
I don't know if I'm going. I'd watch it here, I'd say, maybe at home, because without trying to plug it now, under pressure with finishing the Limerick Hurling book, so that's to be done in a couple of weeks. So that my weekend will be doing that.
I love the way he gives the book a plug. Really. Shameless plug.
I mentioned the name of it, but anyways.
I surely have a code now, 20-25% off.
Oh yeah, get on it, Dan, or Bernie even, huh?
When we get a flash next podcast now, down.
You're using me.
Special for the replay, and winner gets a copy. But like that, my focus this week was, I suppose, trying to even get tickets for the hurling. Being from Limerick up, so now it's just kind of back to reality now. So I haven't even thought about it, but I reckon we'll watch it here, and I think massively looking forward to it, because it was at the final. The replay 2019 was at the final last year, and I was at the hurling last year, which was the first time in the same year I'd been at both, which is fantastic. But so this year it's hard to do 2 games in 1 week at my head. So I think I'll enjoy it from the couch and the comfort of getting it out of the back of my mind, doing a bit of work rather than going up for the whole day. So it'll be exciting because even the feeling around here, knowing that maybe Kerry will win, just even because I remember the scenes last year. It was very different last year because I hadn't won it in so long and got to cover the homecoming in Tralee and Clarny with work and everything, which was huge crowds in Tralee, and then they came back to Clarny later that evening and went on to the pitch in Fitzgerald Stadium, which is so it's always a nice contrast between Tralee and Clarny, I suppose, in terms of coming back, and Fitzgerald Stadium is always considered the home of but football in Tralee is absolutely massive, and it's just it'd just be nice to see that again this year. It's been a crazy few years in terms of following Limerick hurling and then living down in Kerry as well, seeing what they did last year as well. So it's exciting. It's exciting to be down here for it.
100%. Can't the buzz must be unreal. What's the name of the book? Go on, plug it. You may as well.
This one.
Okay, that one as well. Yeah, I forgot about that one. That one, the Limerick book. The Limerick book.
Same with that one, but Limerick.
Very good.
No, just to answer your question, that's unfortunately what I'll be doing this weekend to try and get it done in a few weeks. So I'd love to be going up to the match, but yesterday was completely right off in terms of doing anything, and Saturday was preparing for that, going up to Limerick. So that's what it'll be at. So I think Kerry will nick it, but just about.
Okay, Dan, what are you writing down there? Is it important?
My toss, depending on who wins.
Very good. Lads, there we go. All-Ireland final to look forward to this Sunday. We cannot wait for it. Daniel Goulding, former Cork All-Star. David Byrne, Kerry I journalist. Thanks a million for joining us this week. And of course, the podcast brought to you by YourGrich.com. Use the promo Gemma podcast. Get 15% off on the website. Dublin v Kerry. Get your jerseys now. Lads, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Cheers, lads. Take care.